What's up, dudes? Welcome back to another episode of Rhomas Men's Team. Pretty simple. We are a group of guys helping each other make progress towards each other's goals. If you're new to the channel, awesome and welcome. If you want to help support the channel and join our pro team, head over to rhomasteam.com/pro, where you can contribute to us on a donation basis. We also give you access to exclusive content, mastermind groups, etc., etc. So anyway, hope you enjoy this episode, and we'll see you on the team. You of accepting the trophy, what have you won recently?
Oh, that's an excellent question. The thing that comes to mind is all of the social acceptance that we've gotten with a challenge that I face, which is relevance. And is my message meaningful? Am I on the right track? And it's whether or not the audience is on drugs or not, it's still a good feeling to have so many people following me. And so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, Larry,
sorry, Wes, can you drill down on that relevance for me? Or what do you think he means by that? Because I think that's probably I think I face that headwind too. I think we all do. Or hell, Larry, I want to go ahead.
Yeah, I want to actually, if you don't mind, Larry, force you a little bit here, because I know some of your numbers. Would you mind sharing? What is the number, that let's say, for instance, if you don't mind me saying this, what's the number you have following you on Instagram right now?
143,000.
Yeah. I mean, that's a long ways away from, hey, I just want to make sure I'm feeling relevant. Do you know what I mean? Like the abstract. And that's one of the things I think we are
How the heck?
Men. We kind of want to reduce the noise of our trophy, if that makes sense.
But we're also really good at justifying the numbers. These people don't have anything else to do with their time, so they happen to watch this guy. It's really easy to discount the good news, and I have to work really hard to be able to, at this moment, go, yeah, that's, feel good about that.
Yeah.
And so even though I would get in someone's face if they were not allowing themselves to benefit from the good works they're doing, I just think we've had it driven into us since kids, don't be arrogant, make it about others. And yet, we can't overlook ourselves along the way. So I appreciate you asking.
Yeah. 143,000 followers.
I just checked. It's a kind of a trust but verify situation. And yeah, it checks out.
Isn't that crazy? Hell yeah, Larry. Congratulations, brother.
Thank you very much.
Ray, let me, and Larry, you are a perfect example of, in my opinion, what a man should be and grow to aspire to be. So thank you, man. What comes to mind for me when I talk to you is just like, keep going. And in fact, apply more energy as you keep going. So I respect the hustle, my friend. Ray, let me throw it over to you. What's a recent win?
Well, I'm up to 2,216 followers on my Instagram. I'll hold for the applause. Okay, I'll just continue. And Wes, I'm feeling blessed, and even though I'm fat, bald, old, ashy, cold in Canada, I feel real blessed just at this moment. I think it's just because I just sent a kind of a cold call email that I was procrastinating about for forever. So feeling good that I'm doing what I can control and kind of not worrying about what I can't control, which is like how they'll respond, if they answer, if they open it, I went to 4 AA meetings this week. I did pick up and drop off 4 times successfully this week. I slept over at with my daughter. My daughter and I had 2 sleepover parties this week because mom was out looking for the world's most expensive hotel. If I can, if I mean, that's what I've garnered from our credit card bill. But so that was a joke from Modern Family. I can't credit that. I can't claim that. But and again, I'll wait for the applause. Okay, no, okay, I'll proceed. So I've just had a good week of just putting in the inputs. My scorecard is strong, and I haven't sold art in a couple of weeks. And so that typically, well, that really affects my emotional kind of like equilibrium, I wish it didn't, but food and money really move the needle for me at like an instinctual biological level. But as long as I'm putting in the inputs, those things will come. So those are, I'm sure I've forgotten some stuff, but that's what comes to mind.
Hell yeah. Well, and to be fair, the last painting that you sold, how much was it worth? How much you sold?
It was worth 10 grand. I took home 3,500, and it was about 10 days between meeting the person and selling them art. So
yeah,
really can't complain there.
Yeah. Congrats, man. That's huge.
Thanks, dude.
Congrats on all the success, and congrats on all the support you give to me, the rest of the dudes, the people in your AA program, et cetera, man. It really is.
Oh,
awesome.
dude. Well, like you say, it's a circle. It's a circle, and then also like you fall to the or like you're an average of the top 5 teams you join, and so whether it's AA or this group, I've got a lot of support. I'm drawing on as much support as I give.
Hell yeah. Love it, buddy. Thank you. Arjuna, what are some wins, my friend?
Let me think about it. I guess work, this is a pretty good one. Well, I come from the origin of always being very micromanagey. Like I can't even imagine how insufferable I used to be to work with, like before I like discovered myself. So a mantra for years and years had been like, unless the boss is directly dealing with this person, then it's not my fucking business. And I had to like keep it that way to just learn how to just, stay in my lane. Anyways, there's been this coworker who like I'm happy to say I work at a place where there's no shit talking, like it's incredible how healthy and cohesive everybody is when they work together. There's this guy who I trained, and he's been having a kind of a hard time. He started real good, and then like kind of got like, and I get it, like his position is very stressful. I work at a pizza place, anyways. The last few times I worked with him, I hadn't worked with him in a while, and I trained him. He had not been able to like deal with anything. Like he would get so stressed out he couldn't even function. Like literally, and it's not even that he would get aggressive. He literally couldn't even comprehend information, to the point where people would tell him things over and over, like literally 3 different angles, and he's just staring at you blankly. And but for some reason, none of my other coworkers had the ability to like deal with anything. It was everyone's very passive. And so I ended up talking to the owner and being like, hey, this is what's going on with this person. And it felt so good to be able to be so objective and not feel micromanagey, like finally be like, well, I can create this input from a place not where it's like from ego, but like this isn't functioning and we need to like get it figured out. And I'm the only one capable of talking about it. Anyways, they said, yeah, go ahead, talk to him, this and that, and then come report back to me. And weirdly, I never even got the chance to talk to him, and everything just got figured out. And like ever since then, it'd been like it was almost like they got talked to. It was like the universe was like, all right, cool. Anyways, long story short, a few days ago, which was like a week or so after that, my boss came up to me and was like, like next time, like when we have more money coming in, you're the first on the list for a raise. Like I really appreciate that. Like I was very seen and valued in doing that from his perspective. And it was really, and then one more real quick thing, like I've always had an issue with like weed was always my substance imbalance. Luckily, that was the only one. But I always go back and forth with guilt. And so lately in the last few weeks, I'm just like, you know what? I'll just get stoned as whenever I want. I don't really care. It's weird feeling guilty. And then really just leaning into myself. I smoke weed. I smoke weed habitually. I'm still productive. I'm still this, like really letting go of that shame and guilt. And then here I am just totally stoned and having my boss be like, I see you. I value you. You are better than most people in this way. And being like, oh, what the fuck am I worried about? Like, I'm doing great.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. Well,
I mean, I don't approve of the weed consumption, but I definitely approve of the like self-love and self-acceptance.
yeah. Well, hell yeah, man. And I give you credit. Oftentimes when you come on here, what hits me is your ability to articulate subtle nuances of human dynamics and communication.
Yeah, you're a smart guy, Arjuna.
Yeah.
And you're in tune,
Yeah.
like you're really tuned into what you're feeling. I can tell you've done a lot of the personal work and that you've been on the journey for a long time. And so we're lucky to have you on the team, man. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate
Yeah, and
that.
you're a man after my own heart because you used the word function and dysfunction. To me, for some reason my brain dramatically gravitates towards that because I think it's the healthiest version of identifying problems, because
Good and
within
bad,
that
yeah.
word, it's contextual. It's like it implies it's not morally right or wrong. It's just not functional towards an implied goal that we've set. So as always, man, thank you for the articulation. Phil, you're coming up next. If you're available, I'm gonna, if you don't mind me saying this, force you to do your favorite part of the team here, which is give yourself credit for something. I'm sure we're not going to have any resistance on your side. So let me throw the mic over to you. Can you give us a win for you, Mr.
Yeah, hopefully my connection is as bad as it was last week. But yeah, I don't know. I've been trying to think of something. I guess I'm still making money off of video game. It's pretty small money, but yeah. Last couple of days I've been trying to figure out how to get more attention on it. I don't know. That's about it.
That's a big win, dude.
Sorry, brother. It was, for me, it was kind of cutting out. Would you mind clarifying that last one, bud?
That's I didn't really say anything else. I was saying,
Okay, I think he said he's still selling his video game. Did I get that right, guys?
Yeah.
That's all I heard.
Awesome. Yeah,
That's
hell
a big
yeah.
win, man. Like to get paid for your art is extremely rare.
Yeah, well, and what I would add to that is get paid for your art, right? Like in perpetuity. I mean,
Yeah, royalties.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Unheard of.
one of the roles,
Like other than Kanye, I can't think of anyone else. And like in my personal friend circle of very close friends, other than Kanye, I can't think of anyone else who does that.
yeah. And just so people know the history of, Phil, very much and I hope you don't mind me saying this, Phil, like does not like to give himself credit. So I think sometimes, myself and the other guys around him have to give him the credit that he is due. He created a video game not too long ago, took him a while to create it. And he actually got it over the finish line and has been selling copies of it ever since. And honest, Phil, I hope you don't mind me saying this, thousands of dollars, like many thousands of dollars of copies. So just absolutely outstanding.
And Wes,
MFG,
what I love that Phil has been very transparent about like the kind of the writer's block and different kind of like procrastinations on the journey to getting that past the finish line, right? That desire to get it to 100% perfect rather than just shipping it when it's at 80%, which is what we need to do. And yeah, and I think it's just a huge achievement to publish one's first, video game, song, painting, whatever it is, just to do because there's just a kind of a lifetime of upside if he wants to keep pursuing that.
Yeah, 100%. MFG, love the Peaky Blinders hat. Can you please share a win on your side, brother? as an OG of the Rhomas men's team?
Yeah, I'd say my win as of late is not losing my shit completely, because I'm in the period of time, like, yet again, as it comes in cycles, where I fucking killing myself and have nothing to show for it, and no positive reflection back. But this is kind of like where where you make the progress, is kind of grinding it out when everything truly fucking sucks and nobody gives a fuck. So that's kind of where we've been at. But hey, at least it's not causing nearly as much collateral damage as it once did.
Hell yeah. Well, that sounds like a topic we could bite on. Do you wanna hop in? Are you open to sharing, MFG?
Yeah, sure.
Hey dudes, sorry for the interruption here. Just wanted to let you know, if you want to join our pro team, go to romasteam.com/pro. You can help support the channel. You will also get access to exclusive content, masterminds, one-on-one sessions, etc. All right, back to the episode. Let's do it, brother. Now we'll get to the juicy stuff. Let's have it.
Yeah, I mean, I've made a significant change in the last, say, I don't know, 7 8 years, and pursued art full time. Gotten into a different realm, creatively and financially, and it's fucking hard. I mean, look at, as Ray was just saying, it's very rare to make any money off of your art, and it's hard. It's hard because you know what you're doing is right, and you're willing to sacrifice and and for what you want. But sometimes it just, that's a long, lonely road, and that's why for me, I just, I'm a fucking lunatic in the gym. You know what I mean? I literally, I have to push myself to the fucking brink of passing out, doing cardio and strenuous exercise every day, just to keep my mindset okay. Because that's the thing. It's especially, I been a little over a year now, year and 3 months or so, that I've been living in a van, and everybody thinks that sounds great, but you're alone. You're fucking alone. And I'm in a place where I don't have anybody aside from my buddy that I work with. I don't have any family down here, nothing. And and so it doesn't really matter if you lose your shit. Like, there is no consequence. So you have to just sit with it. And there's nobody that can do anything about it. And no one's going to come and save me. So I have to fucking sit with the discomfort. And the only way out of it is to fucking sit with it. And it's fucking hard, dude. And it's even harder when, I mean, I haven't gotten paid since fucking February 1st. You know what I mean? So I'm owed thousands of dollars right now that I'm waiting on checks for. And like having to run up a credit card to pay for fucking food, and then when you look around, and by the way, I used to be a fucking piece of shit. You know what I mean? I used to fucking sell drugs, and I was really good at it. You know what I mean? I ran a fucking corrupt business really well. You know what I mean? And the financial rewards were plenty. So it gets to the point where you start to question yourself, and you're like, hey, is what I'm doing actually good? You know what I mean? Because what I get reflected back to me by the world doesn't seem to be as much. Even a few months back, like, maybe I'll just get like a shithole studio or something. I can't even afford to fucking do that. You know what I mean? It's like, so it's it's just right now, it's just the game of like, keep a fucking gun out of my mouth is winning right now.
MFG, are you comfortable with us going around the table here and saying, hey, what's your view? Are you okay with that? And totally cool, obviously, if not.
I'm sorry, that was broken up. I didn't get that.
Yeah, I was just saying, would you be comfortable with us going around the table and saying, hey, what's your any insight on MFG's position? Not advice, but just saying, hey, here's what comes up for us. Are you comfortable if we do that? All right, I think his internet connection is a little wonky. I would say let's not comment until he gives permission. But I think at a general level, and MFG, maybe if you can hear me, if you don't mind commenting in the chat. MFG, you said you're good if we go around, just to confirm. So I think he's saying that he's okay with that. Do you guys read that as the same permission?
Yeah.
So MFG, we're going to start commenting on your position. Please shoot me. Okay, cool. So he said he can.
Wes,
okay.
He's not in a coma, man. We can proceed, dude. It's like Wes is in the hotel. Wes is in the hospital room looking for an eye flutter. It's
Yeah,
like, no, he can.
yeah.
Look, Wes, it sounds like there's a couple of things that come to mind is like what Jim Rohn says about like after the winter comes the spring, right? And so if MFG is like he knows, as we know, that like if he is in a winter, whether it's seasonal or like emotional or financial, there will come a spring, and I would recommend, as you recommend to me, Wes, is just keep doing the fundamentals, keep doing the inputs, use the scorecard or create one for your own needs and stick to it. Because if you do the fundamentals on day in and day out, good days and bad days, the benefits will obtain. That's what comes to mind for me.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Larry, what's your perspective, man?
He really struck a chord when he said we're all alone. And as we're looking at our own eyes and living in our own mind and watching how we're doing and what we're doing, and it's really critical that we recognize that we've really got to be able to count on ourselves. We have to be our own cheerleader. And I know that sounds kind of funky, but what's the opposite of that? Drag ourselves down and be blind to the fact that he's at least working out, the struggles that he's gone through. I think it's just as I started when I had to talk a little bit about some wins, is that we are really so friggin' hard on ourselves, no matter what situation we find ourselves in, to be able to really go, hey, yeah, it's uncomfortable. Things suck right now, but I'm doing the work. And even if it, like you were mentioning about smoking my way through it, but stop the shame and the guilt and be as functional as I possibly can, because it's all part of my journey. And, what I have found sitting here at going to be 76 next month, it's not how many years we've been on this planet, it's where our head is in this moment in time right now. And do we have something to aspire to, whether it's the North Star or something greater than self, or the vision of the mark we want to leave, on the lives of people, not when we're gone, but right now. And just, him sharing with us kind of allowed me the opportunity to go, give yourself a little friggin' credit, Larry, because I think I can put myself in the same mindset he's in right now easily and overlook everything that has happened as a result of my showing up, which I think this is one thing we can all give ourselves credit for. We showed up, we turned this on this morning. We knew we were going to look at our lives. We knew how transparent it would be. We knew there's no running from it. We just got to face it and move on. And Mike, you modeled that. You're a MF, you are stronger than horse breath. You are an aspiration for me. I really look up to you, and I feel for your struggle. But as I feel for the struggle of a chicken trying to break through the egg, I know if I help it, it'll die. It needs to struggle to fully live. And so kudos to not being on here, driving while you're with us. It means the world to me. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Phil, let's throw it over to you. Any perspective, man? Sorry, Phil. I think.
Hey.
Yep.
Can you hear me? All right. Well, yeah. Let me know if my internet cuts out. I'm sure it will. But look, I mean, I don't know. The only thing I can think to say is something that would really piss me off if Mike said it to me. So maybe this, isn't the best. But like, I was listening to something yesterday. Some guy was asking, like, a programmer was saying, like, a lot of programmers these days you see online will say, I have imposter syndrome. And he was just saying, like, he's kind of an older guy, so he never really felt like an imposter because that wasn't, I guess, a term that people used back when he was younger. But he was saying, like, you can look at it as imposter syndrome, or you can look at it as like, you could do the opposite. Like, imposter syndrome is like results likely of like looking around you and seeing people that are better, But he was saying, like, you can also look around you and see like lots of people that really suck a lot more than you, and it's just kind of an arbitrary choice that we make. For some reason, humans decide to focus on people that are better for some reason, and put ourselves down. But I don't know. This is, not the most useful advice, maybe. But
no, it is.
Another
guy, Phil. That's very useful, dude. Because Wes, you can, what is it about the negativity bias where we choose only to like look for evidence that we suck?
Oh yeah. I mean, basically, from my understanding, it's a minimum 5-to-1 negativity bias, and for sure we're constantly comparing ourselves to others. By the way, I do think that hardwiring is useful. It can also dramatically work against us as well. Arjuna, let me throw it over to you, or Phil. Were you done, my friend?
No, I can empathize. I was just watching this video I saw a little while ago about a guy. I was rewatching it for some reason yesterday, of like this guy who's like one of the best money counterfeiters in modern times, and he printed like over $1 million in $100 bills. And now he's working at he got caught, got extremely lucky, didn't go to jail for an insane amount of time, only went for some time because the FBI, or I guess the government, was so impressed with his quality of production. And he's working at he's a production manager at a printing facility. So he prints legal stuff now. But it's like, before he was like, it's crazy because he's like, I would print like $2,000 to $4,000 a day, and he would spend it that day. It's like, how's that even possible? First of all, that's insane. How do you spend $4,000 every single day nonstop? But he was spending it because he was addicted to heroin, and he was buying a bunch of stupid crap, and now he's not, he's living a good life. So I don't know. I don't know what the fuck my point is. I'm sure you guys can get it. So
well, we're entertained.
Stop rambling now.
We are entertained. Are we not entertained? That was a crazy story.
Money. And
no, it's cool. It's cool to cool to be actually doing cool stuff.
Yeah, Arjuna, piggyback off of that. What's your perspective on MFG's situation, if you don't mind?
Yeah, it's kind of just a hybrid of what Ray and Larry were saying. Like, well, and kudos to you, Mike, because I mean, you, even as you addressed it, you are very aware. You're like, well, the only way out is through. Got to sit with it. I mean, I was just gonna say the same kind of shit. What is it like? The dawn is brightest at the sun is the brightest after the darkest of night. All that shit. But I will say that, like, I've said that to everyone in my life, and I'm also a very strong believer in just physical activity, like doing anything physical that allows you, like it gets your blood flowing, but also gets you to feel like senses of accomplishment. So I will say, like, to hear your story, Mike, and to hear that you're out there just destroying the gym regularly and still feel this way, like that's personally, that's out of my wheelhouse. So like I really commend you for where you're at. And I mean, in my experience, just like you said, it's always the transition always leads to something better, and you know that where you're sitting now. And I'm really stoked to see where the other side of where you're at, considering how like hard things are for you right now. I'm excited for you, at the risk of sounding discompassionate.
Hell yeah. Kaizen, let me throw the mic over to you, buddy. What's your perspective?
What's going on, man? I talk to MFG like regularly, and this dude's doing cool shit like constantly. I think sometimes, especially the van lifestyle thing, I know what he's talking about, being alone or feeling lonely sometimes, but I think the only way to kind of approach that and then just shit in general is to just try to have more fun with stuff. It made me think of this thing that we used to call entertaining yourself, or like self humor, finding stuff that like you think is funny and like retraining your brain, because your neural pathway, you get into emotional cycles where you're doing the same behaviors over and over if you're not like aware of this kind of shit. So if you have a history of like maybe around this time of year you're starting to get sad, or your brain is like, what the fuck's going on, or financial patterns or this way or that, just kind of paying attention to it, and then retraining your brain to find more things that are funny, and then kind of lift your whatever vibrational level or whatever that shit you want to call it is. Maybe try to talk to more people or approach more people or something, or just find whatever you're doing more fun. Like he's got his dog, when he goes on the walks and shit like that with it, and post the video on Instagram. Half the time it's like in some forest where you're like, where the fuck is that? Like that looks like a nature video on some documentary series. So I mean, even just doing something like that, you should be able to take a moment to be like, this is cool. I don't think how many people don't get the opportunity to do that, and just reflect on what you're doing now, be cool with it, because what else can you do? Where you're at, you kind of just have to be like, all right, this is my situation. Let's make the best of it, and then just move forward. Like he was saying, that's all you can do.
Yeah, and Kaizen, I can relate. I just like in listening to you, I just realized that I'm in a very similar situation to MFG, because I'm separated from my wife, and so I spend part of my time, a small fraction of my time here at home, and then the other parts are either in my mom's basement or at my friend's kind of semi-finished basement. So I could look at this kind of transition shoulder season that I'm in as just all downside, and there are plenty of times where I feel that way, where I feel kind of adrift or insecure, as in like not really having all my stuff in my house, and yeah, but I have a lot to be grateful for too. And if I can get over the fact that, I've got to rotate between 2 or 3 places, there's plenty more fun to be had.
It's also like, what is that, having things or these possessions, like you have to have your life set up this way? Is that what actually makes you happy? Like, who made that rule? Where did that like belief come from that you have to have this, kind of house, or have this kind of family or a lifestyle or whatever? It's like your experience is your own. So just kind of take that mindset and stop trying to look at some AI generated image and recreate it in your life. Like, why isn't it like the picture?
Or like that show Leave It to Beaver, right? Why don't I have that kind of like perfect white picket fences kind of life?
Yeah, everybody's got their own shit. So
that is such a powerful comment about imagery and the take that it makes when it fires neurologically in our brain, and we begin to think it's a reality that we have to obtain. And living in a society that's all consumerism oriented, we would collapse if we weren't buying. And yet, by the same token, how much pain and suffering it can cause when people think that attainment is what's going to make me happy. And so they're constantly striving for an illusion, as opposed to what Mike's dealing with right now is, this is my movie. This is my life. And the next question he's got to ask too is who is this serving? Because as we're all benefiting from what Mike is going through, because he's serving us with his lifestyle and asking us to, without really saying that, how is your lifestyle going? Are you inside feeling yes, or are you still thinking it's out there somewhere? And the one thing I would caution myself and all of us is, if we're going to make something up, which we do, let's make up something that we can find benefit in, as opposed to just how long is this going to last? And, like Kaizen said, you can't bring joy into an insufferable position unless you choose it, unless you choose to find where's the value in this. And like Mike, know that you're serving up so much to us by going and struggling like you are. And at some level, we're all struggling. We're all, like Phil said, this whole imposter syndrome. I haven't met anyone who isn't dealing with that, thinking that, well, I didn't really create this on my own. God, we got mirror neurons in our brain. Of course, we don't create it on our own. We wouldn't be walking if we weren't looking at aspirations of those who were. So it's kind of fun to hear all of us and listen to us and have, in the meantime, me going like, what am I bringing to the party? How can I contribute more? Or do I want to get caught up in my struggle? And I think that's where we really help each other, is with what can we do about our struggle that'll benefit those around us, as opposed to, I got to get rid of this struggle. Because once the struggle's over, then that's bullshit. And then you're going to be at another struggle. And then you're going to be at, you said, wow, Larry's got 147,000. That's cool. I'm looking at the guys that have 5 to 20 million and thinking that, oh, I suck. And my wife goes, God, we have 2,000 subscribers now on YouTube. And I go, 2,000? Why is it and I think that's the time out. What are you fucking chasing? And enjoy that, I could go on and on, but I'm just grateful for what I'm hearing. And every time I tune in to you guys, I leave feeling, so much more grounded than I did prior to getting together.
Yeah, well, MFG, I hope you take that seriously. It's the first time I heard Larry use potty mouth. So, Kyle, this is your first time up here, bro. If you're comfortable with, let's share your perspective on it, bud.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. So I'm just gonna put this out there. I'm pretty nervous here. I don't have a webcam. It's not that I'm shy to show my face. I'm just don't have a cam. So I think,
good,
and I don't have the wherewithal to maybe speak freely here. I'm going to try. But Mike, I think perspective in life is what I've learned recently, that as the saying goes, that grass is always greener. You say you feel alone, but I can almost promise you, you're not alone. Everyone else feels, maybe not everyone, but a lot of people are in your position. And I think if you can get the perspective like, hey, maybe it's good that I'm in this position and I want to try to better myself. So when I'm not alone, then I'm not still technically alone in my own body, if that makes any sense. And I've been in your position before, and it's a really, really horrible feeling. And I want you to know that you're not alone, because there's other people struggling. And I think you always have to remember that there's always someone who has it way worse than you, and they're able to make it work. If that's something that can help you move on to the next day, then run with it. Whatever, you got to find something that can help you move on, because the work that you're putting in now will only help your future. If you stop putting in the work now, then you won't have a future. And you have to almost get the work done to get past the shit you're in. And
Yeah, amen to that, Kyle. That was awesome,
Yeah.
dude. And that really, that really resonates with me, man, because like I've been thinking about the presence of God in my life, you know, and like how God doesn't just kind of give me the winning lottery numbers in advance, you know, like he doesn't kind of like, it's really when I do something good, so I do the action first, like you just said, the benefit obtains later. That serenity I feel after when I do the right thing, you know, like for example, like a buddy of mine came to my house around Christmas, and he left this really cool blue vest. Wes, you know the blue vest I've been wearing low these
Every
past
day,
3
yeah.
months? Yeah. And so my wife Sarah's going to meet him for lunch, and I made the tough decision of like giving her the blue vest and like to return it to him, because like this was like part of my skin for like the last 3 months, and but it just felt right to, like, it's his vest, not mine. And it's just doing the right thing is like returning something that doesn't belong to you if you find it, right? And yeah, and so like Kyle, what you said really resonates with me in terms of doing the right thing first gets you the results. Like
Yeah.
you don't get the results and then think, oh, I should probably do the right thing. If you get the results, you're not going to change a damn thing.
Yep. Well, I think one of my more exciting things for me in the future is, like, I'm in a pretty shitty spot now, but I'm realizing it's like, why am I letting this put me down now when I know that the future holds something a lot powerful? And I can't wait for the day to be like, holy crap, like, I can't believe I made it through that time in my life where I thought in that moment that I wasn't going to make it. And I think that is what drives me. I mean, just to put it out there, my finances have been the worst ever in my life. And I have 2 kids I have a 2.5-year-old and a 7-month-old, and I'm barely scraping by. And I've been living negatively financially for the last 2 years. And I'm finally see a light at the end of the tunnel. It's still fairly down the road, but I see a light. And that's the drive now that I have, because I don't want to be a failure. And that, I think, when we think of financially as being a failure, it sucks, but it also is true, because, you know, being a father and a husband, if I don't bring home money, well, you know, I'm a failure. And, you know, it's hard. Life is hard, and there's always challenges, and there's going to be another challenge me for in the future. It may not be as hard as it is now, but if I can get through what I'm going through today, and same with you, Mike, not to make this about me, but we all have struggles. Everyone here has struggles. And that's what life is about, is getting through those struggles. Don't, you know, I know what really resonated with me was you said about your success is not putting a gun in your mouth. That hurts. That hurts, man. And no one wants that. I know you don't want that. But just know, the harder your work, the quicker you can get out of the mess that you're in. And I know it doesn't feel like it now, but when you look back on this moment in a month, 2 months, 6 months, you're going to be a lot happier that you didn't do that. So just stay strong and push through it.
It's part, like, we're all on like a hero's quest, right, Wes?
Yeah. Yeah, and I like to, if it's okay, MFG, I want to throw in my 2 cents here. And you know, I love you. This is coming from brother to brother. And if any of this resonates, awesome. If it doesn't, then just chuck it away. I think my entire bias in life, because I grew up poor, was just how do I make money? And I think oftentimes in society now, that game is almost looked down upon for people who are not making money, if that makes sense. And it can be really popular to hop on that bandwagon because it's conversations like, oh, materialism doesn't matter, like all of these things. But I would say if you were my brother, and I would hope you would say to me, it's like, look, man, you're not making money. It has nothing to do with your identity. It's just a different game to play. It happens to be a really fucking important game to play. One of those mantras that I repeat constantly that I heard from somewhere was like, there's no problem that you cannot make worse. And I very much believe that. I think a large part of that pie is like, there's no problem you can't make worse by not making, right? Like by making less money, right? It's essentially something like that. My challenge to you and to everybody else in a similar situation is like, play the game of making some sort of baseline capital so you at least take that off the fucking table. Because especially in America, we can go way past zero now. I mean, you can play the game. I'm not saying you, MFG, I'm saying in general, you can play the game of getting a handful of credit cards to where you can get 100,000 in debt. I know people significantly more than that in debt. And I think oftentimes, if like, I'll put it this way, I had a buddy come over. He was part of, I think it was like called the Lost Boys, where they were like exiled. I forget from what country essentially, but he was telling me about some of the ways that he makes money, and he
like
would
former child soldiers, one of those kind of guys from Africa.
I don't know the full story, and I'm very ignorant when it comes to that topic. But essentially, he came over. He lived in a tribe, and then got exiled, and now he's in America. And this was a long time ago. I met him, but dude, he would work at the grocery store starting at, I forget what, 6 a.m. in the morning, and then work another job, and then go to school, and he'd sleep for 3.5 hours in his car. And that was just to put food on his own table. And MFG, I know you have it in you, right? Like I would be curious what would happen if you said, okay, I'm going to spend the first 4 hours of every day making a baseline level of income to earn my art. I think all of us on this call have probably had to do an iteration or two of that. So I hate to be so pragmatic about it, but I'm curious if that would help the situation of like, no matter how I fucking feel right now.
Just to be clear, I make money. You know what I mean? Like I work full time with my buddy at the shop. I mean, like right now the checks we're waiting on for this month are like a little over $80,000. So it's not as though that I'm not putting forth the effort and driven towards money. The temporary money issue is just circumstantial. You know what I mean? And that is something that is largely out of my control. And as far as talking about, being alone, a few people mentioned that. Like not just in the literal sense, but also the fucking shit that I do to try to manage everything else. Most of the things I do put me in a category that are outside of most people's even ability to rep. You know what I mean? Like even, that's what I mean when it's alone. I don't have a lot of people to look up to, and at the risk of sounding like an asshole, because I've cut out all those feedback loops. You know what I mean? Even as far, I don't even eat fucking bad food, dude. You know what I mean? Like I don't even have a little sweet treat. It's like I've tightened everything up so much that it's just like it's I don't know. It just
give yourself a
feels
sweet
like,
treat.
No, fuck that shit. Fuck sweet treats. But it's and as far as like it just never ends. You know what I mean? It never gets any easier. Like, cause I've had it the other way. I've had the money, and I still wasn't fucking. So it's not like, I mean, granted, the lack of funds right now is frustrating, but I also have the awareness to know that I'd feel just as shitty right now if I had fucking 20 grand in my checking account. Unfortunately, And that's a sobering thing, because that's the realization. And that's where I get to the point that I feel hopeless. It's because, you know, and I'm grateful for the things that I've been able to accomplish. I was watching one of the Rhomas videos that got posted to YouTube the other day from like fucking 4 years ago, when I was still working at the sign shop. And I've done everything I said I was going to do from back then, and gotten better in all areas. So, it's nice to be reminded of that. But also, I've worked really fucking hard. You know what I mean? And to still feel this way. And that's a hard realization that, maybe I'm just not gonna ever fucking feel better. And that's fine if that is inspiring or helpful to people, or if me being open about that process offers other people insight, then great. Maybe that's all I have to offer. But to just, it's just really, sometimes I just get, tired of it. Especially to being like, I don't use any of the things I used to use that would be like, that would be a distraction per se. You know what I mean? I make myself sit with it. Like I said, I don't drink, I don't do drugs anymore. And, I don't even things like fucking casual sex, like that kind of stuff. I don't even partake in that type of thing, as far as like, so it's really sobering. You know what I mean? It's really just sitting with the fact that it's just me. You know what I mean? And, and then it I don't know. I don't think we realize sometimes the things that we use against ourselves to motivate us and to create ambition, and like, oh, I'm going to do this so I can get that. I'm going to do this. But it's like, it fucked me up when I realized, like, all right, well, I can do that, but that's just a fucking hope. It's like, okay, let me set an indicator. Let me make 25 grand in the next 3 months. It's like, great. And then do what? Then I got to spend that to be happy. You know what I mean? It's just, I don't know. It's, it's fine. It is what it is. And I'm just stuck doing it. And I got nobody to complain to, because this is what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? I can't, like, I could go, work doing something else and have an easier life, but it's like, I've already seen that's not going to have any more fulfillment to it. So I'm just kind of uncomfortable right now. Okay.
Yeah, and MFG, like, being able to sit with uncomfortable thoughts without grabbing a bottle of alcohol is like my life's mission right now, I'm not on the verge of a relapse or anything, but it's like I'm not about to grab drugs and alcohol, but I still struggle to sit with uncomfortable thoughts. And I don't know if that's a Buddhist kind of like philosophical pillar of being able to sit. I think that's what comes to mind, right? Is like being a rock in the river and letting the uncomfortable thought just wash over you without moving you, or something. Like, that's what comes to mind. And then also, like, I would ask you, do you have a spiritual life and a spiritual practice? Because for me, and again, I'm not telling you what to do, but just some things that come to mind for me are, going to church and being part of a faith community. I'm not requiring you to do that, but that's just something that I think assists me with those feelings. And then being part of the AA fellowship also is a practice that assists me with those feelings, and like helps to give me on the one hand, but on the other hand, kind of like ammunition against those kind of thoughts.
Yeah, and MFG, what comes up for me, and you can tell me to go fuck off, is I'm curious though, when you say like, oh, I've had the money and I've had the life and so on. I know it's really easy for all of us to say, okay, yeah, that checks out, right? Like, he did have all of that, and that didn't give him happiness. But if I were your brother, I'd be like, well, let's be real careful. Let's take inventory of that, because maybe you did have money at one time, but you didn't have the relationship that you wanted. Like maybe one of the macro pieces wasn't there. And if we assume the part to whole logical fallacy of like, well, I wonder if it is worth playing the game of like, hey, well, yeah, I had that money at one point, but these other areas were chaotic. So that may be why I wasn't satisfied then or wanted more. Or when I had the relationship and I had the family life, maybe I didn't have the capital to sustain it. So just throwing that out there. And I know only you will know that. And I also know that you are incredibly self-reflective. So this is not at all to mitigate your intellect and your ability to take inventory on your history. But I know that even for me, oftentimes, like when I kind of beat myself up, I forget those crucial details because I am like, it just, my brain gets silly at times. So I don't know if that resonates at all, MFG.
Yeah, I mean, it's I've been able to. So to your point, Wes, it's not as though that like I am against earning money. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, the next 12 months is to make a little over 150,000. You know what I mean? And it's ambitious to a degree, but not outside of the realm of possibility. So it's more a matter of realizing that I used to often use money as a metric, as internal validation, extrapolate, and how I orient myself to society through money, and then to have found much more fulfillment and happiness and genuine joy without that. It takes money off that pedestal. So fucking money's necessary. You know what I mean? And it's a tool, and I'm not, just because I don't fucking chase money doesn't mean that I don't see it as useful or utilize it. You know what I mean? So I don't want to be misunderstood in that capacity. And it just becomes challenging because when the metric becomes relatively intangible, you know what I mean? And it's harder. It's hard to not have. It's hard to stop using money as a measure. You know what I mean? But I also know in the past when I've used money as the metric, the downstream consequences, at least for me personally, and that's on me, it doesn't bode well. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's challenging at times because you can feel a little bit listless. You know what I mean? Because in the present, when you don't have that positive feedback loop, and you zoom out on a large enough view, you know what I mean, as far as what I've been able to accomplish and things I've set for myself and been able to achieve, that's all well and good, but it's just confrontational at times. You know what I mean? Because you don't have that positive feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that I keep on bringing up the topic of money, but what I'm saying is, let's say there's a core 4 or 5 things, kind of like a master lock, where it's like all of those have to be in line for the lock to open. So if it's like money, personal relationships, intimate relationships, sense of purpose, whatever those 4 or 5 things are for you, I'd be curious for all of us men to like take inventory of that, of like, hey, if we're looking back into a period of our lives where it's like, oh yeah, well I had all that stuff and it didn't work. It's like, well, wait a second. You didn't have that.
No, I didn't have all of it. I had excessive disposable income. I had excessive access to drugs, women, things like that. So I was that was not. I'm under no delusion that somehow life was better back then.
Yeah. Because what I would then challenge you to do, if you don't mind me saying that, is define that game that you want to play, right? Like with those variables, those core variables. And I know that you've got the balls and the work ethic to make those variables happen. And that journey is the beautiful, chaotic, fucking terrible journey that you're on and we're all on. And I know you know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. But, I would challenge you to get back on that path of like, you define those variables that you want to achieve. And yes, it's going to take probably the rest of your life to achieve them, but it's way better than the alternative, you know. So that's my 2 cents.
That was a great contribution, because I was thinking about the belonging issue a lot as well. The language I was thinking of though was isolation, right? And how I think MFG might be feeling isolated, which is different than lonely and alone, right? Like someone can feel isolated in like the middle of Mexico City or Tokyo or something, right? And I think isolation is the opposite of isolation is connection, right? And something we say in the 12-step program of recovery as well is like the opposite of addiction isn't sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. And so like, yeah, I'd love to hear Wes or Larry's take on this belonging issue, or specifically like connection, and maybe how can we cultivate that? How can MFG cultivate that? Because it seems to be like this kind of it's part of that master lock, part of those macros.
Yeah, Larry, why don't you take that one, brother?
Well, I think when you get into the big drivers of our intrinsic motivation, it also ties into our greatest fears. And the greatest fear, which tops death, that we've talked about before, is rejection. And we can't continue the species. We're innately driven to connect. And so we try a lot of different means of connecting that aren't fulfilling if they don't involve other human beings.
In fact, I think
and we can intellectualize ourselves out of the fact that I can do this alone, you know, but then we hear these bumper stickers, no man's an island. And we begin to recognize that when we try to do everything alone, we continue to isolate. And we think that doing it alone is going to give us some sense of manhood. It's going to give us some sense of value. And, you know, this whole sense of belonging is, you know, that brought up is really the number one driver. And I think when we aren't connecting with people outside of ourselves, then we're forced to start manipulating the game and to do connections outside of that so that we somehow feel like we're fulfilling a need that is so innate that, you know, we almost don't like it because you know, it's not something that we came up with. And I think that's where the imposter syndrome comes from, that all this whole illusionary life that we live is who's really guiding and driving all of this. And we want to be the drivers. We want to be the ones that are making it happen. It's valuable in the sense that let's stop denying that we need one another. And that's not a sense of weakness. That's a sense of strength, because they say the greatest leader is the leader of vulnerability, because it allows others to realize you don't have to be perfect to be a leader. And so we want to see each other struggle. We want to see each other fail, but we also want to help each other up and not give a hand out, but a hand up kind of a concept. And I think when you share, like you're sharing with us, Mike, it really gives us the opportunity to give a hand up. And then I think it's on you to ask yourself, what kind of a receiver am I? Am I just letting them hang with that hand, or am I reaching out and grabbing it? And then being able to stand up together and kind of laugh at where we just found ourselves. So that's my take on belonging.
Yeah, I love it. And thank you for bringing up that topic, you know, of connection, because I also, you know, struggle with proactively seeking that, it almost out of ignorance and not giving it enough benefit, you know, or awareness. So I really appreciate that. That's why I like the roundtables here, because there's so many different dimensions of which we could approach one of our, you know, obstacles. So thanks for the contribution, because honestly, it reminds me of like, oh shit, and like just how holistic these things can be. So MFG, dude, thank you as always, man, for number one, displaying what it is to be vulnerable. Thank you for being on the team for so damn long. It's an honor to fight by your side, brother. Any parting words of wisdom on your side, bud?
I appreciate you guys, and you know, and I appreciate the positive feedback from this group because there's not very many other people that I really take stock in, or that have that would even qualify to be able to give me positive feedback like you guys can. So that means a lot, and it certainly helps to quiet that, kind of self-deprecating, never satisfied narrative that is, terribly persistent. And as you said, Wes, that can be a great tool. But when it gets out of hand, it can turn on you. So I apologize for sounding like a fucking whiny bitch this session, but I'm really grateful for this group.
None of us said that except for Ray. So we're all with you.
Well, I mean, listen, guys, it's important. It's important to remember those who can't create, curate. You know what I mean? Ray is a fucking grifter.
Can I butt in?
Oh,
here
that
and ask you guys
stings.
a follow-up question?
Oh, I know
That
the truth
stings.
hurts, Ray. It's okay. One of these days, maybe you'll take a look at my art. Open your fucking eyes.
Ooh,
I follow
you
up?
just added 5 years to that deadline, bud.
Hey, Ray, I'm glad that you got 2,000 fucking followers. Now you're up to half of mine. You know what I mean? And as soon as you
Wes,
sell one of your own pieces, Ray, okay? Then we're in the same fucking realm.
Wes, I think you've cured MFG of melancholy at great cost to myself personally, but I'm happy. I think I'm happy for the tribe, and I'm gonna leave now. Okay.
Yeah. All right, dudes. I love you guys. MFG, thank you guys so much. Great having you on, brother. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
Have a
man.
great weekend.
Great contributions
Guys,
all around.
Later.
Take care, buddy.
Great day.